Welcome back to the Chosen Life podcast. He is back, our original guest from episode 1, and he's come back throughout the years, and he's back now for the end of the year, and it's been a successful year. He is the one and only George Tremis, Jonathan A. Hacohen, author, Bible 3.0, and it's all about the chosen life. Mr. George Tremis, living the life you envision and making it happen.
Nice. Glad to be here. It's exciting. Happy to share the chosen journey with you that I've been living since we last spoke. And it's going to be a good time. I always look forward to it.
Well, today's episode is going to be an interesting one because we're going to dive into an area that we rarely talk into, and now we feel a little more comfortable talking about it. And that's politics. And living here in Ontario, Canada, right?
That's right.
We get a lot of media reports, and it seems to be very skewed always in one direction. It's doom and gloom, scare, scare, scare. And it's quite interesting, Mr. George Tremis, because we just had a U.S. election not that long ago, right?
Yes, we did.
And I remember the day of the election, talking to a buddy of mine and messaging him. He lives out in the States, and I said to him, I don't know, reports are coming out that it's neck and neck. And he said to me, it's not even close, buddy. He's going to wallop, and he's going to win. And he called it. Trump took it decisively, and it's funny now sitting in Ontario, Canada, and watching our media reports, and it went from it was neck and neck and da-da-da to now, oh no, doom and gloom, Canada is going to have a problem, blah, blah. But yet the people in the know that I talk to in the U.S. and Canada are saying, hey, we're going to be going off now for 4 years of bliss. It's going to be prosperity again. Times are going to be good. What's your feeling? What's your gut reaction now seeing what's happening in the U.S., what's happening in the U.S., and how do you think that's going to affect us here in Canada, economy-wise?
So my gut reaction is that it's a good thing because typically Canada follows suit with the U.S. in many ways, and they kind of set the tone for us and in some ways for the rest of the world. And I feel that they're setting a good tone with a focus on business, industry, common sense, policies, etc. that will be good for the U.S. and in turn good for other countries that align with the same kind of policy. So my gut feeling is that it's going to be great. In fact, my stocks have shot up, including my Bitcoin. So I've got no complaints.
You think about trace back to when, Harper was in power here in Canada, right? And we had nice prosperity. And people said, you know what? Now we need to change. We need to change. You know what? He's been there too long. We need some young blood. We need this. We need that. Trudeau comes into power. And looking at it, by the time all's going to be said and done, I don't know if it's going to be the least successful prime minister of all time, but he definitely left the economy, left morale, everything in shambles compared to where it started from. And my gut feeling is watching the U.S. and what the U.S. did. I think it's very, very simple. Regardless, high economy, low economy, your race, your gender, your creed, color, gender, it doesn't matter. People said, we are not in a good place here. We feel uncertain. Our economy is weak. We need to strengthen this up again. And the voters came out and sent that message. I agree with you. I see where the U.S. goes and the accountability that Harris-Biden had to be accountable for in the U.S. I think that's where Trudeau is headed in Canada. And I think because his ego won't allow him to walk away, plus his pension, he is going to hear the same, if not a bigger message that Harris heard.
We can only hope, but I truly believe that'll be the case. I mean, there's been no positive metric that I can think of. And forgive me if I get the stats a little bit mixed up because we're inundated with them, but I believe on a GDP per capita basis, we're actually worse off than we were before the Liberals took power. That's a very significant statement. So not only should we be increasing with inflation, at least we're actually negative to where we were. That's from an economic standpoint. Then you have the housing issues with lots of our money, our taxpayer money being spent on supposedly trying to fix the problem, and the money went who knows where without fixing anything. And crime, well, crime's out of control. I don't think anybody would be surprised by that statement.
The election results came in, and I don't know, I just felt this sense of relief and calmness. The world will now sort itself. There'll be no more wars. We're going to settle out all the battles. We're going to focus on fixing the economy. And let's not make no mistake about it. The world depends on the U.S. having a strong economy.
100%.
Their dollar is strong. Their housing is strong. It just builds good morale. That means more jobs, tax incentives for businesses, not overtaxing businesses, but actually giving businesses incentives to grow and prosper in respective regions. Something that I think Canada has to take note of because Trudeau's approach of tax, and let's make life very difficult for businesses and homeowners. I've come to the point in the year looking at now 2024 going into 2025. Why would somebody in another country think of investing money in this country? First of all, you're not allowed to buy housing at all as a foreign buyer unless you meet very certain criteria. Then you're going to pay a foreign buyer tax. And from a business perspective, all they're trying to do is tax businesses. You actually have to reach out with an olive branch and bring in those businesses. And that's where I see Canada headed. Canada was built on immigration, encouraging businesses throughout. And once the Canadian election is done, we got another year to go. But when that happens, I think they're going to follow suit with the U.S. So I think right now, people are nervous because they're saying, hey, Trudeau would have worked very well with Harris because they're of a similar mindset.
Absolutely.
Now Trump's going to come in. He's going to make Trudeau more accountable. Trudeau's going to feel very, very uncomfortable. And once that changes, I think we're going to see Canada-U.S. bliss again. That's my gut feeling.
I believe so, and I pray so. And I think you hit it right on the head with respect to investments. So me personally, I'm not advising any of my clients, my family members, or anybody to invest further, for example, in the Canadian economy until we know where it's going. And I'll tell you why. Because one of the major things that the Trudeau government did was what? Increase the capital gains tax. So it was an absolute wealth grab from so many people, from younger-ish investors like ourselves, let's say. But then what about the older folks who had one investment property? And I have many clients and people in my database like this, where they were counting on that for an income stream or to sell it and then downsize and possibly move somewhere else. Now, suddenly, how much of their wealth that they saved their whole life is being taken away? And the irony is that he has the nerve to say, we're just asking that those that did well pay a little bit more. Excuse me, where are you tightening your belt? I have no love or tolerance for him or his party right now.
It's my son asked me an interesting question the other day. He said, Dad, I was watching the news. I was reading about the 407 highway. So here we have a toll highway like they do in the States, right? And he's saying, so let me get this straight. If you're a low-income family, they're going to give you incentives to drive on this highway. If you are driving there every day and spending thousands of dollars, you get no breaks whatsoever. If I'm supporting them and giving most of my money, especially even if I'm not, a high earner, but I don't fit their low earner criteria. So basically, I'm paying for incentives for somebody else to drive on the paid highway. Shouldn't it be that the more you spend, the more rewards you get? I'm like, welcome to Canada, son. And that type of approach should change. Like, to me, I don't understand what that highway, at some point, you reach $1,000 a month, drive as much as you want, drive until your heart's content. There has to be an incentive for people to put in money into these type of things. But even I think about well-earners that stopped using the 407 highway because they said, look at how much I'm paying. This makes no sense whatsoever. The whole point of that highway was to remove congestion from the 401 highway. Have you driven on the 401 lately?
Coming here, I did.
If you're driving on the 401 highway, anytime from about 7 a.m. to 8 p.m., it's a nightmare. And then at night, they do construction too. You drive on the 407, it's bliss. Just reduce the thing by 20-30%, and you'll increase it by 50% usage, and you still won't even feel it. But come up with some sort of incentives. Now, I know it's private highway, which I don't know. If I'm the government, I own that highway. I would have kept owning the highway and collected the money, but why would you do that? But it's a similar type of mindset. The more people bring money into my economy and spend and create jobs, I want to give them incentives to do that. What a thought.
Absolutely. But I mean, the irony is it took your son, the next generation, being introduced, let's say, to the real world to ask the simple common sense question, why is it, Dad, to paraphrase, that it's an inverse relationship between how much value I create in the economy and how much I benefit? That's basically what he was asking you. And I think it's mind-boggling. And so I see the U.S. going to a commensurate type of economy with consideration for social good and helping those that do need it for the greater social good, but not this inverse relationship between you have to pay more just because you make more.
I remember when Trudeau first went into power and my son was in grade 5 around. And a kid comes up to him and says, my daddy says that this is great. He's very excited about the new leader. And my son in grade 5 said to him, my daddy says that if we don't get tax breaks, then there'll be no jobs for people like your daddy.
There's a lot of truth to that. I mean, what do they
A
say?
5-year-old, like, sorry, grade five. Grade five, we're talking about a 10-year-old, 10, 11 years old. 11 years old, he understood how the economy and taxes work. Yet, if I bump into the average person on the street in downtown Toronto, they'll look at me like I fell from the moon.
The problem is, I mean, unfortunately, they subject themselves to being inundated by messaging, through social media and other platforms, which I think that's part of where the 1 billion for Kamala's campaign went to, and thank God it didn't succeed. So we're clear on where I stand. But I'm hoping that Paul Olivier, with his common sense conservative approach, will reintroduce the common sense that children in grade five and young adults realize for themselves. And that way he can set the stage for them to be the next generation, and we can help Canada be great again.
People, it's funny. I think this is where it comes down to, if you see Toronto, if you see Canada in general, it's a real nice thought. I just want to work from home. I don't want to have to drive to work. I don't want to be around people. And you know what? I don't even know if I want to work at all. I just want free money. I miss the days of the government getting me free money to sit at home. It's a lot of things came out stronger from COVID. For example, the idea that you can work remotely or hybrid, that there's options there, be able to have meetings virtually, paperless. There were good things that came along from that. But as always, you give a little and people will take a lot. And I think that, especially I look at young professionals, you think about a legal profession, accounting profession. If you finish school virtually and never been around people, then you start your job and you're working virtually and you're not around people, there's something about growing in your respective profession and having mentorship and discussions. You need to be around people. What I'm afraid, George Tremis, is people get very comfortable getting paid to not work. And the idea of, I don't want to be around people and I want to be isolated and I want to make my life more convenient so I don't have to go into my car and drive. The more we're isolated and the more we're not working with people in the office, there's a thing about morale and education and growth from a professional standpoint. And I think a lot of people are going to be lacking in that and they're not even realizing it.
Absolutely. I think it's already a prevalent problem because people are so, especially the younger you go. So I guess there's an inverse relationship between age, the younger you are, and the prevalence of lack of communication and social skills. So you just need to go to a restaurant and you can see the demographics, right? This decade, that decade. In the youngest decades, you see them sitting around a table, not communicating directly, taking pictures, sending them to each other, snapping. They don't even converse across the table. They'd rather send each other a message. So working from home will further compound that problem. And at the end of the day, I mean, you're a business professional. I am as well. I think you would agree. People do business with people at the end of the day. No matter how much we use AI, no matter how much technology has evolved, and no matter where it goes, we're still going to do business with people at the end of the day. So you need to understand people and be able to relate, communicate, and connect.
And I think it's kind of a cycle this way. As the US economy is going to grow and thrive, and the Canadian economy grows and thrives, now people are making money again. Businesses are growing. They're hiring people. People get incentivized. They get excited. Now they're going to be around people. They're going to have business lunches, dinners. They're going to have seminars in person, mentorship. I feel like this feeds off of it. The more businesses don't grow or shutter or have to relocate, people lose their jobs. I think they get disincentivized. And so I feel like that's the vicious cycle of it. As it's going to be prosperous, I think we're going to see it's going to turn the other way. We're going to see less and less people working from home. They're going to want to be around people, and they're going to realize the people that are putting in the face time and are dealing with colleagues and their bosses, quite frankly, they're the ones that are going to be on everybody's mind at the end of the day. Even something along the line, like in real estate office, okay? Talk to real estate agents about this all the time. And I said, when you go to a seminar and learn about your given topic, when you're going in person, you have no choice but to listen to the person and interact with them. More will ingrain. When you're at home on the black screen, you don't even have your camera on, and you're off and you're walking a dog and you're making a lasagna and washing dishes and whatever. How much do you think you're being retained? Zero, because you're not paying attention at all. So this is the kind of the cycle I'm telling people to break. Think about your daily life. Think about, we're all in the customer service client industry, bringing in business marketing. The best people that we're able to attract and retain are ones that know us face to face at the end of the day. Bottom line. So I tell people, you know what? I used to make it a point when I was a young lawyer, Every week, I was out for a lunch, I was out for a dinner, I in-person seminar, but I was around people, and business flows from that.
Absolutely. People do business with people at the end of the day. And to your point, I mean, we're going now a little bit more into the, let's say, mindfulness and being in the moment. But, even when people are talking face to face, it's something that people have to be reminded and learn to not think about what you're going to say next, but actually listen to what the person's saying. So if we already, as humans, have trouble with that, how much worse is it behind a screen? Right, to your point. Yep. So I agree with you 100% about that. And to bring it back to the earlier point about economies, the economies that are going to help people better do business with other people and be good business people will surpass the ones that don't. So the worse we get with that kind of thing, the more of a disadvantage we'll have compared to other economies that may be fostering that.
And this is where I'm going to tell those people that are listening to the media and talking to friends and saying, oh no, it's doom and gloom for Canada. It's a problem. Why can't they force Trudeau out already? We need new blood in there. I tell them, you know what? Let him go down with the ship. Wait the year out. His ego won't let him go. He has financial incentive to stay in there for his pension. Just let the man stay in there. Keep doing what he's doing. Let the election unfold in 2025, and let's see where it's going to go. And I think people will be pleasantly surprised. That energy we're feeling from the U.S. side, I think we're very much going to feel that in Canada. Because, George, I can tell you, my friend, it has been now, close 7 to 8 years at least. I've never felt in my whole life so uncertain living in Canada as I feel now. Yeah. That feeling like maybe I shouldn't be living here anymore. Maybe there's some other country I should move to. It's never going to get better from a crime, from an economic standpoint. Like, what incentive is for me to be here? And I hate that because I love the fact that I was born here. I love the fact that I was raised here. It's always been a safe country. It's always been a prosperous country. I want to feel like that again. And I tell myself, just wait it out. Everything goes in cycles. We went as far left as you can go. Let's now let's bring it back to the middle. Let's bring it to the right. Let's now center this thing. And I have hope again.
I feel the same way. So, social issues aside, just looking at it from an economic standpoint to the potential for prosperity, if we liken it to a stock, let's say, I would say it's a hold right now. So going back to investing in real estate in Canada, et cetera, I have a hold position. I'm not selling, but I have a hold until I see good signs that we're going to move in the right direction to be the Canada that we were again. The other thing is, I don't think for those people that think it's going to be doom and gloom that, the Trump presidency and the masses apparently, because it was a landslide, wanting to put America first is a bad thing philosophically. It's not. It doesn't mean putting yourself first means that you're going to hurt others. And if you want to take it down to an individual level, you can't be good for others unless you're good yourself. How can I help you if I can't even help myself? But unfortunately, a lot of, let's say, former policies and political platforms believed in helping everybody else to the detriment of ourselves, to the point where one day we won't be in a position to be a first world nation to help. I think it's very foolish, and it's almost suicidal in a way. It doesn't make sense to me. So one last point on that. I've always thought about Canada being a great country, and I just wondered how much greater it would have been if we go way back in time and we look at the fact that if we put Canada first and tried to have the same mentality and history that the US did, I think Canada would be a superpower to rival the US because everything was built upon resources. And we have far more resources than almost all the other countries in the world. But we sold them off and then let other people add value to them and then bought them back. So we can't change that, but we can change going forward.
And that's where I feel in the US election, there was a lot of pro-Trump people, obviously, but a lot of people sent the message saying, it's not about Trump. It's not about Harris. The bottom line is we are not in a good place. It cannot continue the way it is. We're changing this up. And I think when it comes to time in Canada, there's a lot of anti-Trudeau rhetoric going around. It comes down to whether you like Pierre, don't like Pierre, you like Justin, you don't like Justin. I think it comes down to this. Look at where Canada is today. Look at where it's gone. You're going to keep it going. My mom says to me, the foolishness is, keep doing the same thing over and over and think you're going to get a different result. It's very clear this isn't working. So look beyond the candidates. Look at where the country is at and look where we need to go. And do you have any comfort whatsoever that your existing person, your existing leader is going to be able to do that? I don't think so. and then let's find another way. And I think that we got to go the other spectrum. And it's kind of funny. I've always asked people, as I end today's episode, you think back when Harper was here and he was our prime minister and where the country was at. Imagine we had 8 or more years of Harper. I don't think we would have been in such a bad place. I don't think we'd be where we're at today.
I have to agree with you 100%. And I think you made an excellent point. Like him, don't like him, Trump, Pierre, whoever it is, look at the policies and the platform of the party and decide if it aligns with you and your future and the future for your kids and the generations to come. Forget about the individual. It's not a popularity contest.
Amen. We'll be back next week. We're going to have Mr. George back on. We're going to talk about some Bible 3.0.
Nice.
And talk about, as we're coming now into the holiday season, into the new year, it's time to get ready and how can we make our best lives possible. Find out how. This is the Chosen Life Podcast.